Hello friends, welcome to the Hindu editorial analysis. Today's editorial is titled Dogged by Inflation. Dogged by inflation. What is the meaning of this? Dogged by inflation. What is the meaning of the word dog? Right? Dog, dog, dog. Dog is used as a verb in this sentence. Dog means to follow persistently. To follow persistently, relentlessly, persistently. Right? That is the meaning of dog here. Which means what is being followed? The economy. Who is following it? Inflation. So inflation is following the economic activity as a dog. Just like a dog, it is following our economic activity. It is following persistently. It is not leaving the economy at all. It is not leaving the economy at all. So policy makers must focus on easing price pressures. So they should focus on reducing price pressures. They should focus on controlling inflation so as not to derail recovery, so that the economic recovery is not derailed. Derail means going off track. If a train goes off track, accident happens. Similarly, the economic recovery should not go off track. It should not go off track. It should go on track. So it should not be derailed. But here the problem is with inflation. Inflation means rise in prices. When rise in prices keeps on happening, right? It keeps on happening. What happens? People's purchasing power goes down. Purchasing power goes down. I will give you a small example. I want you to understand this. Let's take eggs as example. The price of eggs in 2021, the price of eggs in 2022, let us say the price of eggs in 2022 is 5 rupees. 5 rupees. And with 100 rupees, you can buy 20 eggs. Let's assume in 2022, the price has gone up from 5 rupees to 10 rupees. So with 100 rupees, how many eggs can you buy? You can only buy 10 eggs. So earlier, with the same 100 rupees, you used to buy 20 eggs. Now, you are only able to buy 10 eggs, which means your purchasing power has gone down. The money which could buy 20 eggs earlier is only able to buy 10 eggs now. So your purchasing power has gone down. With inflation going unabatedly, right? If with inflation going up without any control, it erodes the purchasing power of people. People will lose their purchasing power and demand for goods and services will go down. Demand, because your money can only buy fewer amount of goods now. So with demand for goods and services going down, what will happen? When the demand for goods and services goes down, sales obviously will go down. When the sales go down, companies will produce less. When the production goes down, it hits our GDP, which means economy is not going to be good. So in order to help the economy, in order to boost the GDP, we need to control this enemy called inflation. We need to control this enemy called inflation. So policymakers must focus on easing price pressures. That is the meaning of that. Two recent sets of macroeconomic data. One, government's index of 8 core industries for May. The second one, S&P Global's survey-based purchasing managers index for the manufacturing sector for June. Posit an economy where industrial momentum is being weighed down by relentless price pressures. Recently, we got two big data points. When they say macroeconomic, which means the covering entire country. So two important data points came in. One is index of 8 core industries. So we need to understand the background for this as well. ICI, we call it ICI, Index of 8 Core Industries. First of all, we need to understand some basic facts about ICI. ICI is released by Office of Economic Advisor, which is part of Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. Office of Economic Advisor under Department for Promotion of Industry and Industrial Internal Trade. They release this data. It is released monthly. The base year for ICI happens to be 2011 and 12. So base is considered as 100. I will explain a bit about what is this concept called base. In ICI, we have 8 core industries. 8 core industries. Let's assume in 2011 and 12, all 8 industries put together, let's assume they produced 10,000 units. We are taking an assumption. Let's say they produced 10,000 units. Instead of saying 10,000, we will equate the 10,000 as 100. That is the meaning of base. Let's assume in 2013 and 14, if the same 8 industries put together produced 11,000 units, then we will say the index is now 110, because if 10,000 is equal to 100, then 11,000 will be equal to 110. Instead of using these numbers, we are using these numbers 100, 110 for simplicity. I hope now you have understood. Base year for ICI is 2011 and 12, and the base is taken as 100. Very, very important data point. I want all of you to remember this. So this ICI measures the performance of 8 core industries. What are those 8 core industries? Let me give you the names of all 8. First one is coal, then crude oil, then we have natural gas, then we have petroleum refinery products, then we have fertilizers, then we have steel, we have cement, and finally electricity. But the more important thing here is the weightage of each of this. Which one has maximum weightage? If you look at all of them, the maximum weightage of maximum weight among all these 8 industries has petroleum refinery products. Petroleum refinery products has maximum weightage, which is 28%. 28%, followed by electricity, which has a weightage of 20%, roughly 20%, 19.85%, and then you have steel, which has weightage of 18%, 17.91%, and then you have coal, which has a weightage of 10.3%. So these 4 are very, very important. They have maximum weightage. Okay, the performance of these 4 industries is very, very important. If they perform well, obviously you will have better ICI data. If they don't perform well, then ICI data will be not so attractive. So this is what you need to remember as far as ICI is concerned, or index of 8 core industries is concerned. Okay, who releases it, how frequently, what is the base year, what are different industries under it, and which of it has more weightage. The one with maximum weightage is PRP, which is petroleum refinery products. This is the background you need to have for this. So government's index of 8 core industries data came out for May, and then S&P Global's survey based purchasing managers index for manufacturing sector for the month of June also came in. So let's have some understanding about this S&P Global's survey based purchasing managers index. So what is this PMI? PMI means purchasing managers index. It is given both for manufacturing as well as services. Here we are talking about manufacturing. So this S&P Global, what does it do? It sends a survey. It asks certain questions to purchasing managers. Who are these purchasing managers? For every industry, there is a person who is solely responsible for authorizing all purchases. Purchases of raw materials, purchases of different inventory, different things. So they are in sole control of the cost of the company. So in this survey, this particular organization sent certain questions about several things, like what is the output like? How much are you producing this year compared to last month, this month compared to last month? How has been the employment scenario, right? How is the employment scenario? So are you recruiting more or recruiting less? How is your supply delivery time? Are your suppliers delivering raw materials in time or late? So all such things, they will ask certain things. Based on the responses that they gather from purchasing managers, they assign a weight or score. If the score is more than 50, if the PMI is more than 50, it means it is in expansionary zone, which means the organization has done better compared to previous month. If the score is less than 50, it indicates contraction. So here the PMI is given for entire India and entire global as well. They give countrywide PMI and also worldwide PMI also. Here we are looking at India-wide PMI. If it is more than 50, that means it is better. It has expanded compared to previous month. If it is less than 50, you should consider it as contraction. So keep that in mind as far as PMI is concerned. Without understanding these things, there is no point in reading all this, right? So you have got data from 8 core industries, which is released by Office of Economic Advisor, Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, and also S&P Global is the one which releases the data of PMI here. So these data points posit an economy where industrial momentum is being weighed down by relentless price pressures. So both the data points, what are they saying us? What are they telling? Relentless price pressures. Relentless means without any gap. Price pressure means inflationary pressure. The pressure of higher prices is weighing down the industrial momentum. It is reducing the momentum of the industry. It is putting a pressure on the momentum of the industry. It is kind of applying brakes on the way industry is moving because of this high inflation affecting the demand from the consumer side. Consumers' purchasing power is going down because of inflation. They are cutting down on their expenses or consumption, which in turn is affecting sales and in turn is affecting the production of the companies. Provisional output in May across the 8 core industries spanning coal to electricity grew by an average 18.1% from the corresponding month in 2021, when the COVID-19 pandemic second wave had badly disrupted the economic activity. Now we are talking about the first data point, which is 8 core industries. The data of provisional output. What is the meaning of provisional output? Something that is not final. Whenever they release data based on the available information. So that is provisional. Once they get, if there are any corrections and other things, once they get all of that, they will release another data point which is final. So here the provisional output in May, as per the available information, spanning different sectors, which from coal to electricity, it grew by 18.1% compared to 2021 May. What happened in 2021 May? COVID-19 pandemic's second wave, it had badly disrupted economic activity, which means 2021 May was not a great month. Because of the second wave, economic activity was badly disturbed. So the base was low. We did not do great in 2021. Compared to that, we have done better in 2022, which means we should not be too happy about it because the base is not great. Core output growth was led by. How did we achieve this growth? It was led by double-digit year-on-year expansions. We are seeing double-digit year-on-year expansions in what products? In refinery products, electricity, steel, and coal. These 4 are really the big ones, which together account for 3/4 of the index. More than 75%, around 75% of the index is accounted by accounted for by these four indexes. You can see the four sectors bearing weights of about 28%. Which one is 28%? The first one, refinery products. 20% followed by electricity, 18% followed by steel, and 10% coal, rough numbers. Respectively posted expansions of 16.7%, 22%, 15%, 25.1% respectively. So all these four industries grew by these percentages respectively. Cement and fertilizers 2 saw robust growth of 26.3% and 22.8%. Cement and fertilizers 2 saw growth of 26.3% and 22.8%. Even those two industries also grew. However, on a sequential basis, pay attention here. We are not talking about year on year now. We are talking about sequential, which means month on month. Compared to April 22, we are talking about May 22 with respect to May 2021. In May 2021, because of COVID second wave, the economic activity was bad. So, May 2022 numbers are looking great. But if you compare it to April 22 levels, the growth in output is significantly lower. We are not seeing a great amount of growth here, reflecting the optical illusion created by low production in the year earlier period. Why is it happening? Because of the low production which happened in 2021 on account of COVID second wave, because of which optically when you look at it, you are getting illusionary numbers. You are feeling that we have done superb in this month. We grew by 18% in May. Unfortunately, it was because of the low base effect. In 2021, we did not do great, because of which whatever you are doing in 2022 is looking great. Suppose you scored very less in 9th class. You got only 60% in 9th class. And in 10th class, you got 80%. Then you say, oh, from 60, we got 80. If you have scored 79% in 9th class and 82% in 10th class, it might not look great, right? Although you scored more than 80% in 10th class, it might not look great because 9th class was also 79%. Because of low base effect, it looks really great here. While the index as a whole registered month-on-month growth of 2.6%, petroleum products expanded 1.9%, electricity grew by 1.5%, and steel by a relatively healthier 5%. Index as a whole registered 2.6% and other products expanded by 1.9, 1.5 and 5%. Disconcertingly, which means disturbingly, cement, a key building material that reflects activity levels in the job intensive sectors, actually saw output shrink 3.2% from the preceding month. If you look at cement, which is a key building material, you know, right? Without cement you cannot construct anything. So construction sector relies heavily on steel. If cement is not growing, the output of cement is not growing, that means construction sector activity is not great. Which means in India, it's a very highly job intensive sector. Most of the people work in construction sector, especially informal segment or unorganized segment, wherein, what is informal segment? People who are not on government or any private company payrolls. Instead, they take daily wages. Those kind of people, they work predominantly in construction sector. There, the output shrank 3.2%. Compared to April, the output was not great. In fact, it shrank. So, we discussed everything about 8 core industries data. Now, we are coming to the more up-to-date June PMI data, because 8 core industries data was about May, whereas this PMI data is about June. This data show price pressures dampened manufacturing growth to the slowest pace in 9 months. Even this data shows that manufacturing growth was dampened by, was obstructed by the price pressures of economy, inflation, commodities, prices, because of which manufacturing grew at the slowest pace. It grew, but it grew at a very slow pace. June's PMI reading eased to 53.9. We spoke about it. If it is more than 50, there is growth, there is expansion. But in May, the number was 54.6, which means from April to May, the growth was higher, and from May to June, the growth was comparatively lower. Although it is positive, although it is expansion, but the growth has slowed down compared to May. Amid a broad-based slowdown in orders, production, exports, and input buying as customers cut back on spending amid inflation worries. We spoke about it. Because of the inflation worries, customers cut back on their spending, right? Because of which there was a slowdown in orders, number of new orders, and their production and their exports and their input buying as well, which means the raw materials that they are purchasing. There is broad-based slowdown. Broad-based means across different categories. Across all categories, we are seeing a slowdown. Inflation, in fact, so dominates companies' assessment of the outlook that it depressed business confidence to the lowest level in 27 months. If you ask a business, how do you look at your business 1 year down the line? If they are giving us very sound picture, that means their confidence level is high. We will have another 20% increase in our sales. If they say that, that means they are confident. Business sentiment is good. But unfortunately, a majority, 95% of the purchasing managers at the approximately 400 manufacturing companies surveyed or polled by S&P Global cited the elevated price pressures or the inflation as the main reason why they foresee no change in output from current levels in the year ahead. Whatever output they are delivering today, it will remain same even after 1 year. They are not seeing a positive momentum with respect to output. What is the reason they are showing? They are saying inflation is the prime reason. The price pressures is the prime reason. That is the reason these 95% of the purchasing managers are not very happy, and you can say their business sentiment is depressed. So inflation is dominating business sentiment as well. So the silver lining in this survey though is that manufacturers reported their first shortening of input lead times. This is a positive sign. What is the meaning of this? Input lead times means whenever they are placing an order for raw material, earlier it used to take a lot of time for them to receive because of COVID induced supply shocks. Right? So many countries were shut down because of COVID. So they had to source raw material from some other country. It used to take longer than expected. All these things used to be there. Now they are seeing some easing in that. They are saying they are seeing the first shortening of input lead times. Now they are taking lesser time for getting raw materials. Since the onset of COVID-19, a positive augury for business ability to scale up production quickly once demand revives. The moment demand revives, demand comes back to life, you can immediately see once demand picks up, what will you do? You will want to produce more. Production has to go up. If the production has to go up, what do you need? You need to purchase raw material. If the raw material is taking more time to reach you, then you will not be happy. Here what are they saying? We are seeing shortening of input lead times, which means you are getting raw material in comparatively lesser time now. Now you are getting it in comparatively lesser time. So that is why it is a positive signal. Positive augury, it means a positive signal. That's what they are saying. The onus means responsibility, is now on the policymakers. Right? What should they do? They should rein in or control inflation to ensure that both monetary and fiscal action is focused on reining in inflation. Reining in means controlling. So you have to control inflation using both monetary as well as fiscal action. So what is the difference between monetary and fiscal action? Monetary action means by controlling money supply in the system, by controlling interest rate in the system. How do you influence inflation? By controlling money supply. How do you increase or reduce money supply in the system? Let's say you have banks, and this monetary action is done by Reserve Bank of India. These are the tools that Reserve Bank of India uses. If Reserve Bank of India increases CRR or cash reserve ratio, or the amount of money that the banks need to deposit with RBI, if CRR is increased, banks will need to deposit more money with RBI, which means they will have less money, which means money supply is now less. Similarly, if RBI increases SLR or statutory liquidity ratio, what is SLR? The statutory amount of money are investments that banks need to make. Banks need to keep certain amount of their funds in the form of gold or government securities or cash. Whatever is the SLR, they have to maintain that much amount of gold, government securities or cash. They can maintain either of these three. If the government RBI increases SLR, which means they have to maintain more in this form, which means they will have less money with them. Again, money supply goes down. If the money supply goes down, what will happen to inflation? See, inflation is all about demand and supply, right? You have certain goods and you have money chasing it. When less money chases the same number of goods, obviously the price of the good will go down, which means inflation comes down. Are you getting it? Take an example. You go to a fish market. There is an exotic kind of fish. Yes, a different kind of fish that is available. Only 10 kilograms is available. And let's say there are 20 families which went to the market to buy. Which means more people, more money is chasing less amount of goods. The price of fish will go up. If there are only 5 families and even they want only 1 kg each, so not much demand, obviously price will go down. If the money supply goes down, demand goes down and the price also goes down. Inflation comes under control. That is how Reserve Bank of India uses money supply to control inflation. That is one tool. The other tool is interest rate. Whenever RBI increases interest rate, what happens? If someone wants to purchase a home but the interest rate is very high, he will postpone it. Instead of going for loan, he will postpone his decision. When he is postponing his decision, he is not buying cement which he would buy if the interest rate was lower. He is not buying steel, he is not buying iron, he is not buying anything that is required for constructing home because he is not even constructing now. Now he is not even taking loan. Are you getting it? Now the demand for cement, steel, iron, everything goes down because IR interest rate is higher. When the interest rate is higher, people will reduce their purchasing decisions, which means the demand for different goods and services will go down. If the demand for goods and services will go down, obviously price will go down. Inflation comes under control. This is how monetary action is used to control inflation. And what about fiscal action? Fiscal action is done by Government of India by manipulating taxes and expenses. Let's assume government has decided to reduce tax on petrol and diesel. If it reduces tax on petrol and diesel, obviously transportation cost will go down. When the transportation cost goes down, automatically the prices of necessities, daily necessities or commodities will also go down. Or else, if the government decided to increase income tax, if the government is increasing income tax, people will have less money. More money will go for taxes. People will have less money in their hands. With less money, obviously demand will go down. Again, prices will come down. So this way, by manipulating taxes, even Government of India can control inflation. So that's what they are trying to say. So either you need to take fiscal action or monetary action, and they should focus on reining in or controlling inflation. Anything less, if you don't do that, if you do anything less, it risks affecting recovery. It will affect recovery. Recovery will derail. Recovery might go off track. I hope you have understood every point or every line in this along with the background. Take care. Bye-bye.